I have this box sitting around for some time now and never ever painted or even assembled a single model from it. Now it was time to take it from my pile of shame and use a few models for a Warhammer 40k diorama miniseries. For the first project, I laid my eyes on this model in the top right corner of this image, the Bombast Field Cannon. This is gonna be fun. Let's go! First I had to assemble every miniature, of course. Fortunately it was quite easy, because Warhammer instructions are very straightforward. Here I used a Tamiya extra thin cement, which is, in my opinion, the best plastic glue. I used my hobby knife to clean every piece, but those bits were pretty clean already, which was nice. Less work to do. Always be careful when you work with knives, even with those small hobby knives. One little moment of carelessness is enough for a painful experience. After the plastic models were assembled, I cut a piece of XPS foam into the right shape with my hot wire cutter and used it as a base. In addition, I used a smaller piece made out of MDF, where I would place all the models. I was pretty happy with the layout, so I marked more or less the center of the base where I would drill a hole, so I could guide the wires through to the power supply. Why a power supply? The plan was to create a big muzzle flash made out of LEDs and cotton wool. The cool thing was that this hatch at the end of the barrel could be opened, which was perfect for the wiring later on. So I drilled a hole into the MDF base and the XPS base as well. I also drilled two tiny holes into the cannon itself to better hide the wires later in the process. I needed some space in the bottom of the XPS base where I could place the small power supply with the switch. For that I used my hot wire hand tool with this U-shaped tip. The power supply had this annoying battery cover, which was a pain in the butt to open, so I just removed it. Our preparations were done, so the next part was priming and painting everything. As always, I used my airbrush to prime the XPS base and every plastic miniature. After that I used the zenithal method again and dry brushed the models with a very light grey color. This makes it easier for highlighting. For the models I used the standard Cadian color schemes, so just army green for the armor parts and beige or sand color for their clothes. Astra Militarum were always my favorite army in 40k, so I have already painted tons of those models in the past. But this was the first time that I painted the newer models, and I have to say I really like their new designs and details. This kinda motivates me to paint more Imperial Guard miniatures in the future. After applying details and some water decals, I was pretty much done with the paint job, which was by far the most time-consuming part. Yeah, this made me tired too. Since the MDF base was too flat and boring, I added some texture paste by AK Interactive. I wanted to create an earthy look with some grass on it, but I only had this texture paste in sand color. so I had to paint it later in a dark brown tone. It took some time for the paste to dry, so in the meantime I worked on the muzzle flash for the cannon. Since I wanted the projectile at the end of the muzzle flash, I removed the tip of the artillery shell and glued it on a barbecue stick. Then I took this LED filament, connected the wires with my wire wrapper and guided the wires through the barrel and through the tiny holes that I drilled earlier. After that, I glued the filament to the barbecue stick and the stick into the barrel. All left to do was to put some cotton wool on it with my hot glue gun to create the explosion and smoke effect for the muzzle flash. Some time went by and the texture paste had dried, so I could finally paint it in the right color. To create a little bit more contrast, I also dry brushed the area with a very light brown color. To get an even and clean black tone for the base parts, I applied some black acrylic primer paint as well. At this point the grass was still missing on the base, but before I could do that I glued all the miniatures on first. Then I started applying some static grass, but unfortunately I didn't have a static grass applicator, so I made a cheap one myself with just a plastic bottle. If you want to know how to make one yourself, I perhaps make a video about it in the future. The process was easy. First put some basing or PVA glue on the areas where you want grass and then just put grass on it. Quite simple. I also used small bushes for more details and that's it. The smoke effect was a little bit too bright, so I applied a tiny bit of black paint with my airbrush. Of course, I still had to connect the wires with the power supply, but since this circuit was rather simple, this was an easy process. Lastly, I wanted to add just a little bit more detail, so I made this sign out of a small XPS piece. I painted it in a metallic color and added some water decals. My intention was to make the whole diorama look like an exhibit in a museum, like an Imperial Guard Museum of Military History. That was the final piece, and I have to say it is always very satisfying to put the last piece on the project. Like I have already mentioned in the beginning of the video, this was the first part of my Warhammer 40k diorama series, so the next projects will be Warhammer related as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, if you wanna see more projects like this, leave me a comment down below, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Alright, thank you for watching, have a good one, cheers.